So for the second time in 2 race weekends, I am again looking at a controversial incident in Formula 1, again involving the 2 McLarens on the opening lap of a race. This time the United States Grand Prix sprint race. Of course, I did a similar video a couple of weeks ago going over the incident between the pair of them, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris at the Singapore Grand Prix, and I gave my take on who was to blame with that one. This one, though, is a lot less clear. You know, for me, it was pretty obvious who was to blame for the incident in Singapore, and Lando Norris has admitted as much. He's admitted that he was at fault for that and that he would face consequences for his actions there, but I doubt these were the consequences that he was envisioning. But let's have a look at what happened here, guys, because the end result was that both McLarens were out of the race, as was Fernando Alonso, and the race of Nico Hülkenberg, who had a fantastic qualifying session, was effectively ruined by this as well. So let's have a look at what's happened here, guys, because yeah, this is something that we're going to be talking about for quite some time now, at least for the next 24 hours or so, until we have the Grand Prix tomorrow, of course. So let's go into what happened. So I'll put some pictures up on the screen of what was happening for you guys, just to give you an idea what specific thing I am talking about here. So let's go into this. This happened right on the first lap, right in the first corner, and obviously we had the 2 McLarens lining up P2 and P3. Piastri in P3, although he was behind Lando Norris, he was on the clean side of the grid, which around the circuit of the Americas makes a massive difference. And as a result of that, Piastri got a much better launch off the line and was actually slightly ahead of Lando Norris heading into turn 1. Lando Norris had the favourable line in a sense, being on the inside, but Piastri had the momentum, and Piastri no doubt would have been thinking that he would be able to get at least P2 coming out of this corner. And then Lando Norris does something pretty interesting as they go through the braking zone for turn 1. He actually goes a bit deep on purpose, no doubt, to carry more speed and more momentum through the first corner. In fact, he does a pretty similar line to what Max Verstappen does ahead. He's basically following in his wheel tracks at this point. Now, if you notice further back, you will see a certain lime green, a very pungent green coloured car. That is Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg qualified all the way up in P4 in sprint qualifying on Friday afternoon. He did a fine job there, as did Fernando Alonso, in fairness. And look at where Alonso is here. Alonso is diving down the inside of Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg is diving down the inside of Oscar Piastri. Now, do bear this in mind, because the entry into turn 1 for COTA is so wide. I mean, you can fit 5, 6, 7 cars wide easily going through there. But as they go past the apex, and this is the key point of this, it tightens. You can only really get 2 cars going side by side on the exit of the corner, but going into it, you can get far more. So it means that the drivers are going into a disappearing wedge, for lack of a better term, and borrowing a bit of a Martin Brundleism there. And this is the key point here. The contact is made here. So Lando Norris is going wide on the exit of the corner. Oscar Piastri can see Nico Hülkenberg on his inside, and he thinks, right, there's a gap there between Norris and Hülkenberg. I am going to try and dive down in between them, which normally Hülkenberg would be able to avoid. Hülkenberg would have to move out of the way in that case. However, the problem here is that there's another car in the inside, Alonso, that we mentioned before. Now, Piastri cannot see Alonso from where he is. The visibility in Formula 1 cars is absolutely terrible to begin with. You can barely see the cars that are to your direct left or right anyway without the use of the mirrors, which again are not that useful unless you're going through a slow speed corner, which in fairness, this is a slow speed corner. However, Piastri has no way of knowing that Alonso is going down the inside, and Alonso is taking a line, quite a wide line in a sense. I mean, he's narrow to the apex, but the way that his car is positioned at that point, he would actually run quite wide there. Again, Alonso probably can't see Piastri. He knows that he's out there somewhere. He knows that him and Lando Norris are both out there somewhere, but he has no way of knowing how close he is to Nico Hülkenberg. And indeed, when that contact is made, like I'm showing in the screenshot now, Alonso will probably realise that this is the moment where he's a bit screwed, but there's nothing he can do really at this point. And it's just a chain reaction. It's just a pure chain reaction. Hülkenberg spins out because of the contact with Piastri. Piastri gets hit into Lando Norris. Piastri gets suspension damage and has to retire. Lando Norris loses a wheel and has to retire. And Alonso, I'm not sure why he actually had to retire at this point, but I think he got a puncture and some suspension damage as well to boot. Hülkenberg survives. He does continue in the race, but he does go all the way down to the back as a result. Yuki Tsunoda was very, very lucky to not actually retire from the race as well. I think he had Nico Hülkenberg's front wing lodged in his car, but somehow again he survived and he managed to finish in P7. It was an unbelievable first corner from Tsunoda, gaining 11 positions. I mean, even if you take the 4 guys that took out, I should say, that's still a gain of 7 places. The guy was absolutely on fire in that first lap. Fair play to him. He's had a tough year, but that was a rare positive highlight there, really. So the question you're probably wondering is the question, you've been asking, the reason why you clicked on this video, who's to blame? Well, nobody really. I mean, it's one of them things, it's a pure racing incident. Some might say that, Piastri shouldn't have gone for that gap between Lando Norris and Nico Hülkenberg, but he always was going to, because normally in that situation you would have enough space, Hülkenberg that is, would have enough space on his left to be able to allow Piastri that room to dart through, because there's no way he's going to be able to stop him without making contact. But he does make contact because Fernando Alonso is there on his left as well. So you might well blame Piastri for being a bit punchy, but it's the first corner. He's going for a world championship. He has to try and get that place. If he doesn't try and do that, he's dead and buried. He has to be aggressive there. This is a world championship on the line at the end of the day. Some people might blame Fernando Alonso for going for a move that wasn't there either. But again, where is he going to go? Where's he going to go? He's fighting with the Ferraris behind him. He has to go for that position. He's got to do it. And by the time that he could actually realise that he's maybe done something wrong in a sense, there's no way that he'd be able to correct it. There's no time to be able to correct it. So for me, there is nobody to blame here. This is a pure racing incident. When you talk about first lap collisions and the stewards being more lenient in first lap collisions, this is exactly why. Sometimes you get too many cars going into a space that isn't only, fit for a smaller amount of cars effectively, and that's exactly what's happened. You've got 4 cars here going into a space that has 2. I mean, again, you can see on the screenshots, I'll show you another one actually. I mean, just look at this, for example, right? Look at the width of the road. Don't look at the cars. Look at the width of the road, right? Look at how much it widens on the entry to turn 1, right? Look how wide that is. That's genuinely, you could fit 6-7 cars wide there easily. And then as soon as you go to the exit of turn 1, look how narrow it is. That's not an effect of the camera. That's not a trick of the camera there. That is a genuinely stark difference between the entry and the exit of corners. And we see these differences quite a bit around tracks. It's not uncommon at all for corners to tighten after the apex. But, COTA is particularly kind of severe in this regard, really. So nobody's to blame. Nobody's to blame. This is a pure racing incident, and it's very unfortunate for the McLarens. It's very unfortunate for Fernando Alonso, and really, really unfortunate as well for Nico Hülkenberg, who would have been on for a solid points finish in the sprint if it wasn't for that. Same for Alonso as well. Aston Martin needs all the points they can get to right now, and they got nil points as well from this one because Stroll took himself out of the race as well. Not that he was going to get points anyway, but still. Interesting one, guys. I'm sure this is going to really divide opinion, but my opinion is that there's nothing really to punish here. That there's no mistake really. It's just a thing where there's a misunderstanding on the first lap. It's very, very common in Formula 1. You'll see it many times throughout a season, and it's just more dramatic in this regard because 3 guys went out of the race. 1 got their race effectively ruined, and 2 of them are the title protagonists, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. So that's my take on it, guys. What's yours? Let me know in the comments below. And should McLaren be worried? Should they be sweating? Because of course Max Verstappen won the sprint race. He has gained another 8 points on his championship rivals. Are they championship rivals? Is Verstappen in that conversation now? We're talking about it more and more, and as we get to that business end of the season, it really, really is tightening up. It's starting to get a bit squeaky bum time, to borrow a phrase from Sir Alex Ferguson back in the day. So yeah, like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to see more of this, guys. Have a fantastic day wherever you're in the world today, and we'll see you very soon.